Welcome to From Inside once again. For those of you for whom this might be the first time you're tuning in, one of our life coach consultants, Kristen, will be in dialogue with me tonight. And, as some people have said, it's interesting when they hear and watch these dialogues that we have, that sometimes they simply feel themselves pulled in. And then when it's done, they feel themselves lighter, a little freer, a little clearer. That is what dialogue is about. That's what dialogue does. Those of you who have been with our dialogue groups here at the center that we've had for years, know the experience of walking into a room where ultimately you feel completely safe and trusting and trusted and respected and uplifted, and an opportunity to really become more comfortable with who you truly are. Not the indoctrination of one belief, but the coordination of multiple beliefs. And that's what dialogue is about. And so Kristen and I will tonight be in dialogue. The topic being, it's okay to not feel okay. And when we came up with that topic, we were clear in that it's okay to not feel okay, which is a very different connotation than it's okay to not be okay. We must always be okay to deal with the feelings that we have that are not okay. And sometimes those feelings are our reading of something is wrong, and sometimes those feelings are a warning or a sensation of what may be ahead. But we are the ones that must deal with our feelings. So it's okay for me to not feel okay, as long as I am strong enough to deal with the feeling. If I'm in a very weakened state, not enough sleep, not eating well, preoccupied, not enough connection and love, one weakens. The I weakens, and it's more easily overtaken. Whereas when I am nurtured and kept to be as strong as possible, then I can deal with the outer things going on, including my own feelings, my own thoughts, and my own actions. The idea is that we want to become more responsive, responsible, and not just reactive. Stimulus, reaction. The stimulus is in charge. A life feels out of control, and we have a reaction to that, as opposed to life feels out of control, and I now have to be responsible for my own body, mind, emotions, and people, places, and things within my sphere of influence to respond to this in a way that, at the very least, attempts to create better balance. So our dialogue has begun. I leave it to my dear friend and colleague.
Thank you. Yes, out of control. I've had a lot of opportunity in the last several months, but in particular in the last week, a little over a week, to recognize the sense of out of controlness that can occur, and because there are a lot of things that are out of my control. Those who have been watching have probably heard me talk about my niece, who's been in cancer treatment since November. She's 9 now. She turned 9 recently, and it's been brutal. And then add to that COVID, completely out of anyone's control and disheartening to a lot of people, and a struggle for a lot of people. I have an aunt who is passing, which is very difficult. One of my brothers-in-law just ended up in the hospital. And to top it all off, the worst of the worst, my sweet little niece ended up in the ICU and on a breathing tube, on a ventilator. And it's been terrifying. And there were a few days last week where we did not know if she was going to make it. And it was very scary. And I did not feel okay. And I am 100% sure her parents did not feel okay at all. And yet we all had to keep going. Mm-hmm. And being far away was difficult and painful, and not being able to at least be there and hold hands and hug, and just really tough. And I tried very hard to keep the focus on them. But of course I was experiencing my own feelings throughout this. And I was really struggling with how to get through it, and recognizing that I was not sleeping well. I would wake up and worry, and noticing that my heart rate, my resting heart rate, I've got my little watch here that tells me my resting heart rate, and it went up significantly. I shouldn't say significantly, several beats per minute. My resting heart rate went up, and I thought, gee, what's going on here? And I was, I've been meditating regularly, working on getting myself feeling more in control, because that's all I can control throughout this, because all of these external things that are occurring are out of my control, and there is nothing I can do except send love. Mm-hmm. And that I do a lot of.
Which is
and a lot of people have been, and I think it's helping her, because she is, we are less afraid now, although she's still in the ICU and still on a breathing tube. They're working toward helping her. One of the most interesting things that I noticed is I walk a lot. It soothes me. It's a form of meditation for me. And I often talk on the phone. Talking is a way of helping. I feel like just talking about it with other people who love Sophie and my sister and her husband and my other niece. I feel better. So I walk, I talk.
Let me get this. That one of the reasons that happens is because then in a very physical way, you have a dialogue. You have two people, no matter they're saying anything, two people coming into a position of sharing.
Yeah.
No one is alone in going through this situation. You're going through it, together. You have found a way to help progress this through this rough, hard time. And you have to keep moving. And you're finding a way to keep moving, and you're honoring you're tending to your feelings. You're following your feelings, because there's a consciousness underneath it. The I part of you, that consciousness is being sure it's good and it's nurturing and it's helpful, that you're not now doing something that's pulling attention away from someone who really needs more attention. So there's always this consciousness of we-ness, us-ness. It's the ego I that is always, when the person has their sense of I in their ego, it's exhausting, because the ego is all about controlling. To be able to live from a deeper place, which isn't about controlling, but about influencing. Kind of we were talking about last time about a coach, the families having a coach that someone tends to go to. And like we've talked about, a person who's truly a coach, or a person who's truly a mentor, that's a really great word for it. A mentor doesn't say, I'm going to learn to be a mentor. A mentor all of a sudden says, boy, people are coming to me. What's this? And they have a way of communicating back to dialogue, which enables that person to feel uplifted by the end of the communication. And as long as I've known you, you have done that naturally. Back when you were a kid, you did that naturally. And that's indicative of someone who, that's part of what needs to be accepted. Now here's a family crisis, which is involving everyone. And you're not only a consultant to them from the outside, but man, you're right in there in the middle. And what I know of what you've been able to do, not only for the whole situation with the GoFundMe and all that, but also for, individuals, your niece, and organizing, birthday parties and police station, the whole police force came out and so on, all these wonderful things and bringing things in. To me, that is the most beautiful thing one can do when they're in that kind of crisis. And it would be much easier, of course, to just let go of that and just go right down to your feelings and become absorbed in your feelings and just become your feelings. Then you're not going to be good for anyone. Everyone's going to have to go and tend to you. So it's learning to be able to hold that balance and to feel what you're feeling, but don't become the feeling. Hold it, but hold it loosely so it can transition.
That is spot on. And that is, in fact, people have been checking on me because they know that I'm very invested and I'm very close to, my sister, my niece, my brother-in-law, but I'm very close with them. And so, of course, I am affected, but I don't want anyone to feel that they have to tend to me. And that's been, that's actually helped me quite a bit. And once in a while, I try to not let my sister hear nowadays. That's really all we get. How painful it is for me because she's the one who needs tending. And once in a while, I break down, and then she wants to tend to me, and I have to pull that together and remind her. We've been tending to each other for our whole lives. And it's how you develop such a close relationship. Like she's one of my soulmates, without a doubt.
And giving her that little moment. I mean, you didn't let it go on too long, but you did give her a little moment to feel herself in that other role, the role where she's the one that's tending. Could be empowering, as long as the scale doesn't tip to where, she's now taking care of you and there's no one. I mean, my God, he has so much nurturing coming in, but in this kind of situation is never enough.
Yeah. I
mean, there's a pain that you just can't stop. You have to go through it, but to know that there's another side, which ultimately, where we come, it comes from our faith and our vision and our wisdom. And you get older, you go through things and you think, wow, I've been through so many things I never thought I'd be able to get through emotionally. But then somehow you do. And you learn and you grow. And it's like we often use the analogy of going down a river. You didn't expect that around that turn was going to be all that turbulence. But then on the other side was another smooth patch. Yeah. And as we've often touched on, the state between and the balance in the center of those life realities is lifelong work. And you need others to do it.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's been one of the most remarkable pieces of information that I gleaned from this is that, each of us handles stress differently, and we all have our own way of tending to our own feelings and needs throughout something like this. And as I mentioned, I talk and I walk, and those really soothe me, and I meditate. Mm-hmm. Well, I was talking with someone one day, and I told you, I mentioned my heart rate. My resting heart rate has gone higher, which tells me I'm stressed and I need to find a way to help that. Well, as I was talking to this lovely woman on the phone, one of the many, many people who has been such an incredible support for my sister and her family, my little niece, me too, we all work together to do whatever we can, because I sort of accidentally met these kindred spirits who, like me, just are uncomfortable sitting by doing nothing. The only way to make ourselves feel better is to do whatever we can, even though it feels like never enough. Exactly. And it feels like, arranging a birthday party for Sophie's sister may be small, but at least it gives me something to do and I feel better. So these people have all been helping me. And as I'm talking to this one particular woman, I just happened to notice my heart rate went down. Right. And I was like, okay, it was not only the support that she offered, but it was my opportunity to express my gratitude to her. And I believe that the expression of gratitude is another stress reliever. Yes. And in that process, I was, I know that to be true. I know it intellectually, but to have that physical evidence of it.
That's how you really know it.
I really knew it. I knew it on a cellular level, like clearly I did. And I was like, okay, I need to keep listening to my instincts, that talking to people who are going through this with me. We all have varying levels of where we fit inside this puzzle, inside their story. But to know that other people are, often, crying with me, and they do that, or, just sending love with me. And so many people have said, I know they're not religious. I know you guys aren't super religious, but I'm like, there's no but. You throw out all those good prayers. We don't care where it comes from. We don't care what religion, whatever it is. We're happy because that means the good energy and the love are being sent to Sophie. Exactly. And she needs all of it right now.
Exactly.
And it matters. It really matters. And it's been so beautiful. I know I've said this before, but I'm so touched and moved by how many people care so deeply.
And that is, brings us right to, what's going on outside of the walls of our own homes and families. That there's a lot of out of controlness going on out there. And we can either sit in a corner, or we could say, I need to do something. Like you said, you're the type of person you want to do something. How can I contribute? And that's how we contribute, right where we are. And maybe your contribution extends only as far out as, I'll use you as an example, Kristen. Your sphere of influence extends out through your sons, through your husband, through your coworkers, through your clients, to your family, not necessarily in this order, to your, and that's about as far out as it can go. And maybe to these other people you meet in the course of your day. And that's what you have to do. That's what I have to do, to put into my sphere of influence as much love, good energy, good influence as I possibly can. And it doesn't matter how far out your extent goes, whether it's 3 inches or 3 million miles. But if everyone did that, if everyone did what you just described, if just sent love, sent a good feeling of care. And at times that sending the love and the good care is a firmer, stronger stepping in and telling someone or stopping something or blocking something. But it's always it's coming from your heart. It's coming from this place that you don't know what's going to be coming forth next. You're just with the flow of what's coming through you. Again, much like in a dialogue. And we're then having a dialogue with life, because we don't know what life's going to bring, but we're going to respond in the best possible way that we can. And we're going to do everything we can to take care of ourselves, sleep well, and find other people to share with, whatever you need. You're running, you're walking, to have you stronger, stronger, to hopefully be stronger than the wave that's coming at you. And hopefully you get some rest in between. But life is not a straight line. Life is this ongoing experience that is continually changing. And as you well know, in Buddhism, they say that's one of the core problems. We want things not to change. We want to make it, fix it, keep it, very much what in some psychologies we'll describe as the ego. Mm-hmm. That we want to be in control. We want to, as opposed to coming from a deeper place of knowing and wisdom that everything is shifting and moving and changing. And now here's a family crisis. No one expected this to come. And here's a mother and a father and a little girl and a sister and sons and family, ambulances, and like all this stuff is going on. And what can I do? I don't want this to happen. The first step is awareness, of course. Yes, this is happening. And then accepting, yes, this is happening now. I need to accept responsibility. I need to accept my ability to respond to this from a place of strength and be of good influence. And that might mean being the quiet person sitting in the corner where people can just come and be with. Or it might be the person who's like the advocate out there speaking and helping to manage what's going on in a hospital setting. Or it might be the comforter to someone who is very expressive. And it might not necessarily be good for the person who doesn't want to talk. So it's like figuring out and intuitively getting to see what we need to do.
Because I feel like it's interesting that you say that, because I feel like I'm playing different roles in each of these varying situations, and they all call for something different. And there was one role where I had to like get strong and say, all right, we need to put our foot down here. We need to do something because this person needs help, and we can't just say, oh, well, anymore. Right. And another one where I just have to be very quiet and call and let somebody else cry. Right. And another one where I have to, offer like support in a variety of ways. And it's nice to know that there are options.
Yes.
Of ways to help.
Yes.
And that every time I help someone, I'm also helping myself, which makes me stronger and deepens my well of energy and ability to continue to help. That's just like this wonderful cycle, even through all this pain and heartache. And obviously I'm far from the only one experiencing pain and heartache right now. A lot of people out there, not just my family who, that's where my focus is, of course, because these are my loved ones, but a lot of people are struggling, and it's hard to stay balanced. But if I don't stay balanced, as you pointed out, I'm useless.
Yeah. And that's why you're such a wonderful consultant, because you've been through this and you go through this and you understand this. You haven't read a book, although you've read loads of books and had all your training and all that stuff. But you know it in your guts. You know it in, like you said before, a cellular level. You know it. Yeah. And as we always say, you alone must continually become your best self, but you cannot continually become your best self alone. You're able to run in there and be with people, different people, and in different ways, depending on what that person needs from you at that point in their journey. And, so it's okay to not feel okay. Well, yeah, it's okay to not feel okay, because there are things happening that, how could you be okay with? You can't feel okay about it, but you can be okay with the fact that this lousy thing has happened. Life feels the control you've tried to establish, which, believe it or not, is not control. What is, it's a little structure, an infrastructure that has to be loose and organic to keep moving with changes. Mm-hmm. And to be able to go into those times, which you're going to go into, because I've gone into them, Kristen's gone into them, anyone and everyone who's watching, listening has gone into them. That is life. And to enter those tough times with a sense of, maybe I didn't want this to happen, maybe I didn't want this to be here now. It's the uninvited guest, but the person is here. So I need now to respond to this. And maybe I'm exhausted and too weak and tired, so I need to take care of myself first. And someone else is going to have to step in until I can get my energy up. Because there are going to also be those times when I don't have the time, I don't have the energy, but I have to step in because no one else is there. And that too takes a tremendous amount of energy, which needs to be replenished from those moments that you described before, where you're feeling this flow of reciprocity moving back and forth. And even though you're going through a lousy part of the trail, you're able to move through it because you've not gone through it alone. And all of us need someone. And people in your family have been fortunate to have you, the mentor that they have naturally gone to, that you've been able, and like in my own life experience, you don't even know what you're doing, but you're being with them in a way that's just flowing through you, and it uplifts. That is the essence of what dialogue is, and that's the essence of what we've done tonight, and the essence of what we do with the people we work with, and the essence of what we do with the people we live with, our family and our friends and so on and so forth, to the fullest extent that we can, because no one can do it 100%. That's why we say you continually. It's a process of continually, because everything else keeps changing, and we all slipped out of this kind of consciousness and get on automatic pilot. Hopefully we do it less and less and less as we go along. But we also, as Kristen pointed to before, we have the opportunity to find ways to get back into that circle, if you will, to feel not alone, but feel within a circle of other like-minded kindred spirits. People, we say we meet by chance. Well, maybe it's by chance, and maybe some higher powers that I need to move these two people together over here a little bit, But whatever your belief system, to be able to know, okay, here I am. I'm being present, being mindful. Here I am. and here's what's going on. And let me see where and how I can be of good influence. And the more we allow ourselves to do that, we find that we at our best we've always been doing that without even thinking it. Step 1, step 2, step 3, you're just sort of doing it. But in our culture, in our society, we get out of practice many times, and we have to start with, okay, let me do 3 steps to kind of reconnect my awareness to that. And then I can live in a more spontaneous way, if you will. Yeah. Not knowing what's going to come next, what is exactly what we do when we're practicing dialogue. Yeah. So I'll give you the last few minutes to wrap this up, and we shall go back into the difficulties of these everyday lives.
The difficulties and the joys and the beauty that come with it, because there is joy and beauty, even though there is a lot of pain and struggle. One of the, it's interesting. You were talking about, when we don't feel okay, I have had to really recognize that, because I tend to, I prefer, speaking of control, I prefer to be in the service role. Mm-hmm. So when I feel like I'm, coming apart, even though I know that's just the feeling, I sometimes need to be held together. And my husband and my children, I have 2 sons, 20 and 16, and man, they're not accustomed to seeing me cry tons, but I have been letting it fly. And they've just been there and been so strong and let me just wail away. Mm-hmm. And my older son, my 20-year-old, has been bringing me sweet gifts just seeing that his mom is struggling. I got flowers, I got a beautiful water bottle, I got another beautiful, just such the kindness and compassion that I've been shown, even though I'm only an element in someone else's story, has been a balm for me. It's a balm to my soul.
It's the love coming out of their soul that touches yours.
Yeah.
It's what you described before. It's love. It's love. And you get 2 minutes, 10 minutes here or there, but after a while you feel a lot of love coming towards you, and you feel, this stuff really matters. And then I can give it back. Exactly. The more that comes to you, the more you give it back, and the more you want to give it back because it feels so good to get it, kind of thing.
It does. And then I find myself being able to laugh a little or smile a little or pay someone else a compliment. And it just, And then we start passing on the good. I'm a big believer in trying to be as positive as possible. And I felt like I couldn't find that because the situation was so dire and so real. This was very close, right. And we did not know what the outcome was going to be, and it did not look good. Right. Trying to stay positive through that was, I don't know that I was super successful, but I am taking away from it the lessons I've learned through it and the resilience that I've learned that I have.
And knowing the standard you hold yourself to, I would assume that you did a beautiful job, but it wasn't perfect because it never can be. And it didn't make everything right because it can't. And that's the frustration you described before of when we're in situations that there's a limit to what we can do, a limit to what we can foresee. But we have to stay positive and strong and be a good influence. And as long as we are a good influence, then we're a good influence. And to hold everything lightly and loosely, knowing that things are changing. That's the best way to hold it, rather than my youngest daughter has moved in with us for a week, and they just got a dog, a baby lab. And, trying to hold that in position sometimes is just so excited and loving and wiggly and wobbly. And sometimes that's the way it is. We got to hold things loosely. You take something that is moving all around, you try to hold it still. You could hurt it, you could break it, and you could break your arms trying to do it. To be able to go with the flow, even if it's not one that we invited into our streams, into our life streams, but here it is. And so we wish you all well. And again, we want to extend our thanks to everyone at the front lines, which, talk about, you see like maybe this is starting to come down. Oh, it's going back up again. I mean, that's life. And, we thank you for all your training and effort that have enabled you to be in situations that others of us can't.
And the bravery it takes to go out there and do that kind of work.
Exactly. And it's having the courage to be in those situations. So I wish all of you courage, and I wish all of you the awareness that there's always something you can do. And even if it's prayer or meditation or some visual sending them love or just keeping them in your heart, whatever works for you, there's always something you can do. And there's studies on the power of prayer and collective focusing on things that suggest it could really, really, really be true. And if it didn't, you didn't waste your time. It felt good to do it anyway. Anyway, take good care of yourselves. Be well. Kristen, thank you for spending
Thank you.
And
Thank you.
bye.
Good night.